June's first week at the academy was harder than she had expected. The hallways were filled with whispers when she walked by. Some students moved away from her, as if being human was a sickness they might catch. Others laughed at her slow typing. On the alien computers, the quantum physics lab was the worst. The tools were made for hands with more fingers or tentacles or claws, not for human hands. June struggled to use them while her classmates finished their work quickly. On the fifth day, Professor Do-hyun announced a simple experiment. Each student would create a small energy field and test its strength. "This is basic work," said Professor Do-hyun. His blue skin wrinkled as he spoke. His forearms moved in different directions at once. Even a first-year student should be able to do this perfectly. June sat at her workstation and looked at the strange tools. She had studied the manual all night, but it was still confusing. The symbols were hard to understand. Next to her, Taiho set up his experiment quickly with his 6 arms moving together smoothly. He looked at June and smiled in a mean way. "Need help, human?" he asked. "Or is this too advanced for your kind?" "Can do it," June said. She began to set up her equipment. What June didn't see was Taiho using one of his back arms to turn a dial on her machine when she wasn't looking. His friends at the next table covered their mouths to hide their laughter. June finished setting, up and turned on her machine. At first, everything seemed normal. The small energy field appeared above her workstation, glowing softly. Then it began to grow. And grow. And grow. What's happening? June tried to turn it off, but the controls didn't work. The energy field turned bright red. It made a high noise that hurt everyone's ears. Then with a loud pop, it exploded in a flash of light. Smoke filled June's area. The front of her uniform was black with burn marks. Her face was covered in dark dust. The class erupted in laughter. Professor Do-hyun rushed over. "What did you do?" he shouted. "This is exactly why humans aren't ready for this academy. You could have hurt someone." June looked around the room. All the students were laughing at her. Taiho was laughing the loudest. She suddenly knew what had happened. He had changed something on her machine, but she had no proof, and no one would believe a human over Taiho, the top student. "I'm sorry," June said quietly. "It won't happen again." "See me after class," said Professor Do-hyun. He walked back to the front of the room, shaking his head. After everyone left, June cleaned up her workstation. She checked every part of the machine. Yes, there it was. The power regulator had been turned to its highest setting. No wonder the energy field had exploded. June took pictures with her Earth phone. She wouldn't tell Professor Do-hyun yet. He wouldn't believe her. She needed to learn more about the alien tech first. That night, June didn't sleep. She sat at her desk with the alien tech manuals open on her computer. She took notes. She made drawings. She studied how the alien machines worked. "The problem," she said to herself, "is that everything here is made for aliens, not for humans." Then she had an idea. What if she changed how she used the machines to fit her human hands better? What if she found new ways to do the same work? June began to redesign the lab tools in her notebook. She would make them work for her, even if it meant doing things differently from everyone else. Outside her window, the 3 moons shone brightly. Somewhere in the school, Taiho and his friends were probably still laughing about what they had done. But they wouldn't be laughing for long. 2 weeks had passed since June's first day at the academy. She was getting better with the alien tools, but life was still hard. She ate lunch alone. She studied alone. No one wanted to be friends with a human. One morning, the school sent a message to all students. It appeared on June's screen when she woke up. Annual Innovation Tournament begins next month. Teams of 3 must register by week's end. Grand prize, full scholarship and research funding. June sat up in bed. This could be her chance to show everyone what humans could do. But she needed to find 2 other students to work with her. Who would join her team? In the dining hall, everyone was talking about the tournament. Groups of students were already forming teams. June sat alone, pushing the strange alien food around her plate. Suddenly, Taiho's voice boomed across the room. "Well, look who it is. The human who thinks she belongs here." Taeho walked toward Jun's table with his friends. The room went quiet. Everyone watched. "Are you going to enter the tournament?" Taeho asked with a mean smile. "What could a human possibly create that we haven't thought of centuries ago?" Jun looked up at him. "Humans are creative. We solve problems differently than your people do." Taeho laughed. His friends laughed with him. "Humans don't have real science. You just copy ideas from better species." "That's not true," Jun said, standing up. "Humans invented many things on our own." "Like what? Sticks and stones?" Taeho's voice was loud now. Everyone in the hall could hear him. "I bet you can't even find teammates for the tournament. No one wants to work with a primitive human." The other students nodded. Some laughed. "I challenge you," Taeho said, pointing at Jun with 2 of his 6 arms. "Enter the tournament. Try to beat me and my team. Show us all what humans can do." He turned to the room. "Who will join the humans team? Anyone?" Silence filled the hall. No one moved. No one spoke. "See?" Taeho said. "No one. Because everyone knows humans are too simple to create anything new." Jun felt anger rise in her chest. She wanted to shout at him, but she stayed calm. Getting angry would only make things worse. "I'll enter alone," she said. This made Taeho laugh harder. "Alone? Against teams of 3? You're even more foolish than I thought." "The rules say teams of 3, one of Taeho's friends said. "Actually, that is not entirely correct," said a new voice. Everyone turned. Professor Hana, one of the oldest teachers at the academy, stood in the doorway. She walked slowly to where Jun and Taeho stood. "The rules allow for solo entries in special cases," Professor Hana said. She looked at Jun with kind eyes. "It has been done before, though rarely." "But Professor," Taeho began, "a human working alone has every right to try." Professor Hana cut him off. "Just as you do, Taeho." Taeho's face turned a darker shade of silver. He was angry. "Fine," he said. "The human can work alone. It will be even more embarrassing when she fails." After Taeho left, Professor Hana turned to Jun. "Are you sure about this? Working alone will be very difficult." Jun nodded. "I have to try. I need to show them what humans can do." "It would be easier to find teammates," Professor Hana said. "No one will join me," Jun said. "They all think humans are stupid." Professor Hana's face showed concern. "Very well. Come to my office later. I will help you register as a solo competitor." That night, Jun sat in her room thinking about what she had done. She had accepted a challenge she might not be able to win. She would be alone against teams of 3 brilliant alien students, but something inside her felt right. This was her chance to prove herself, to show everyone that humans belonged at the academy. Jun opened her notebook and began to write ideas for her project. She would show them all what one human could do. Jun started working on her tournament project the next day. She set up a small lab in her room, using extra parts Professor Hana let her borrow. Each night after classes, she worked until late, testing ideas and making notes. But as word spread about her challenge with Taeho, the bullying got worse. One morning, Jun woke up to find her door covered with strange writing. When she asked the school computer to translate it, she discovered they were insults about humans. Words like primitive, simple-brained, and worthless. She cleaned the door before anyone could see. The next day, someone broke into her room. They didn't take anything, but they moved all her things to the wrong places. Her clothes were in her food storage unit. Her books were in the cleaning chamber, and then it got even worse. At lunch 3 days later, Jun took a bite of her food and immediately felt sick. Her throat burned, her stomach hurt. She ran to the medical office where the doctor, a tall alien with red skin, looked at her with 6 eyes. "Your food was changed," the doctor said after testing Jun's meal. "Someone put ingredients in it that are good for Veloxians like Taeho, but poisonous to humans." Jun wasn't surprised. "Can you prove it was Taeho?" The doctor shook his head. "No, but be more careful with your food." After that, June brought food packages from Earth. They cost a lot to ship, but at least they were safe. Despite all this, June kept working on her project. At first, she tried to build something impressive, like the quantum devices other students were creating. But the alien technology was still hard for her human hands to use. One night, frustrated after hours of failed attempts, she sat back and looked at her hands. "Maybe I'm going about this all wrong," she said to herself. "I'm trying to work like them, but I'm not them. I'm human." June opened her history books from Earth. She read about how humans had survived ice ages and floods and wars, how they had gone from caves to space in just a few thousand years. Most of these alien species evolved on planets with stable climates, June said, thinking out loud. They had millions of years to develop one way of thinking, one way of solving problems. She looked at pictures of Earth's changing climate over the years. But humans, we had to adapt to constant change. Ice ages, warming periods, different food sources. We never had the luxury of just one way of thinking. June began to write in her notebook, faster and faster as ideas came to her. That's our strength. Humans are adaptable. We think in different ways depending on the problem. We can change our approach. She drew diagrams comparing human problem solving to alien methods. While most advanced species had specialized thinking patterns, perfect for specific problems, but rigid, humans could switch between different thinking styles. June worked through the night documenting these differences. By morning, she had a new direction for her project. Instead of trying to build a better quantum device, she would show how human adaptability could bring new approaches to old problems. She would need examples, experiments that showed the difference. She began designing tests that compared rigid, specialized thinking to human adaptive thinking. When June finally went to class that day, she was tired, but excited. For the first time since coming to the academy, she felt confident. She had found something unique about humans, something even the advanced aliens might not understand. In the hallway, Taiho passed by with his friends. They laughed and pointed at her. One of them made a rude gesture with 3 of his arms. June didn't care. Let them laugh. Soon they would see what one human could do. She didn't know it yet, but someone else had been watching her. Someone who was starting to think that maybe humans weren't so primitive after all. 3 weeks had passed since June had started working on her project. The tournament was getting closer. In the labs and workshops around the academy, teams worked day and night on their inventions. June was in the library late one evening, reading about different alien species and how they solved problems. The library was almost empty. Most students were in the big workshop, building their projects. She didn't notice someone sit down across from her until a soft voice spoke. "Your research is interesting." June looked up. A female alien with pale blue skin and silver hair sat there. She had large eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. June recognized her from quantum physics class. Her name was Minji, a Cygnosian. "You've been watching me?" June asked. Minji nodded. "I've seen how the others treat you. I've seen how you keep working despite it." She looked down. "I should have said something sooner, I'm sorry." June was surprised. This was the first time any student had spoken to her with kindness. "Why talk to me now?" June asked. "No one wants to be seen with a human." "Because I think you might be right," Minji said. She tapped June's notes. "About humans having different ways of thinking. It's something I've wondered about." Minji pulled out her own tablet and showed June some research. "My people, the Cygnosians, have perfect memory. We remember everything we see or hear. It's good for learning facts, but sometimes makes it hard to think in new ways. Because you're so focused on what you already know?" June asked. "Yes," Minji said. "But humans, you forget things, which sounds bad, but it lets you see old problems in new ways. You're not stuck with one way of thinking." June couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That's exactly what my project is about. How different species think differently based on their evolution." "I know," Minji said with a small smile. "I've been reading your notes when you leave them in the lab." "You have perfect memory," June realized. "You remember everything in my notes. Minji nodded. I want to help you. Not as an official team member. That would cause too many problems. For both of us. But we could study together. Share ideas. Why would you risk it? June asked. Taeho and his friends will give you trouble. Minji looked serious. Because most species in the galaxy are afraid of humans. They won't admit it, but they are. Afraid? Of us? June was shocked. But we're new to space travel. We don't have your technology or abilities. That's why they're afraid, Minji explained. Most species took thousands of years to go from discovering electricity to space travel. Humans did it in less than 200 years. That's never happened before. June hadn't thought about it that way. Your people adapt so quickly, Minji continued. You see a new technology and immediately think of ways to improve it. Other species take generations to accept change. So, all this bullying, June began, is because they're scared of what humans might become, Minji finished her thought. Taeho would never admit it, but that's the truth. For the next hour, they talked about June's project. Minji's perfect memory was helpful. She remembered details from science papers that June hadn't read yet. They agreed to meet again the next night, in a quiet corner of the smaller workshop, where few students went. As June walked back to her room that night, she felt less alone. She had an ally now, someone who saw value in human thinking. In her room, she added new notes to her project. Human adaptability, plus Cygnosian perfect memory. New possibilities. For the first time since coming to the academy, June fell asleep, with a smile on her face. But she didn't know that the hardest test was still to come. The night before the tournament, June worked late in her small workshop space. Her project was almost ready. For weeks, she had built a device that showed how human adaptive thinking could solve problems that stumped specialized alien minds. Her invention wasn't fancy like the quantum machines other students were building. Instead, it was a series of puzzles and problems that changed as you tried to solve them. Specialized thinkers would get stuck when the rules changed. But adaptive thinkers, like humans, could adjust and find new solutions. Just a few more adjustments, June said to herself. Her eyes were tired, but she was excited. Tomorrow she would show everyone what humans could do. At midnight, she decided to get some sleep. She needed to be fresh for her presentation. She locked her workshop door and went to her room. What June didn't know was that someone was watching her leave. As soon as she was gone, Taeho and two of his friends came out from their hiding place down the hall. Taeho held up a small device that could unlock any door in the academy. Quick, he whispered. We don't have much time. They opened June's workshop door and slipped inside. The lights came on automatically. There it is, said one of Taeho's friends, pointing at June's project on the workbench. What should we do with it? Taeho smiled. Destroy it. The human can't present what doesn't exist. For the next 20 minutes, they took apart June's device. They bent metal parts. They deleted data from her computer. They broke the special puzzle she had created. When they were done, nothing usable remained. Taeho looked around the mess with satisfaction. Let's go, he said. The tournament starts at 9. By then, it will be too late for her to build anything new. They left, locking the door behind them. No one saw them go. June woke early, excited about the day ahead. She quickly got dressed and hurried to her workshop. She wanted to check her project one last time before the tournament. When she opened the door, she froze. Her project was in pieces. The workbench was covered with broken parts. Her computer screen showed an error message. Data corrupted. No, she whispered. No, no, no. June fell to her knees among the broken pieces. Weeks of work, destroyed. The tournament would start in 3 hours. There was no time to rebuild. For a moment, she wanted to cry, to give up, to go back to Earth and never return. Then she remembered what she had learned about human history, about how humans had survived disasters and setbacks, about how they found new ways when old ways failed. June stood up. She looked around at the broken pieces of her project. This is exactly what my project was about, she said to herself. Adapting when things change, finding new solutions. She began to gather the pieces that weren't completely destroyed. She opened her notebook and flipped to a new page. A new idea was forming in her mind. I don't need to rebuild the same project, she said. I need to build something new. Something better. For the next 2 hours, June worked faster than she ever had before. She didn't try to fix her old device. Instead, she created something completely different. Something simpler, but more powerful. She used parts from her broken project. She wrote new code. She drew on everything she had learned about human history and adaptive thinking. Just as the sun rose, there was a knock at her door. June looked up, afraid it was Taiho coming to gloat. But when she opened the door, Minji stood there. The Signosian looked at the mess in the workshop, then at June's tired face. What happened? Minji asked. Your project. Someone destroyed it, June said. Probably Taiho. Minji looked angry. We should report this. No time, June said. The tournament starts in an hour, but I have a new plan. She showed Minji what she had been building. Minji's eyes widened. This could work, Minji said, but you look exhausted. You need help. I thought you didn't want to officially help me, June said. Minji stood straight. That was before. This is now. What they did was wrong. She rolled up her sleeves. Tell me what to do. Together, they worked on June's new project as the tournament drew near. The main hall of the academy was filled with students, teachers, and even some visitors from other planets. The annual innovation tournament was a big event. Everyone wanted to see what the brightest young minds in the galaxy had created. June stood at the back of the room, her new project hidden under a cloth. Minji stood beside her, looking nervous but determined. Are you sure about this? Minji whispered. It's very different from what other students will present. That's the point, June said. I'm not trying to beat them at their game anymore. I'm playing a different game. At the front of the hall, Professor Do-hyun announced the start of the tournament. Each team will have 10 minutes to present their project. The judges will score based on innovation, execution, and potential impact. Taiho's team went first. They unveiled a quantum communication device that could send messages faster than light. The crowd was impressed. The judges nodded and took notes. 5 more teams presented their projects. There were new energy sources, medical devices, and even a small robot that could think for itself. Then it was June's turn. As she walked to the front of the room with her covered project, she heard whispers. The human is actually presenting? I thought she'd give up. This should be funny. Taiho sat in the front row, a smug smile on his face. He clearly expected June to fail. Professor Do-hyun looked at June with doubt in his eyes. You may begin, he said. June took a deep breath and removed the cloth from her project. There were no fancy parts or glowing lights, just a simple display screen and some controls. My project is not a device, June began. It's an analysis of how different evolutionary paths affect problem solving. The crowd looked confused. This was not what they expected. Every species in this room evolved on a different planet, June continued. Each planet had its own challenges. These challenges shaped how our brains work. She turned on her display. It showed brain scans of different alien species, including a human brain, her own. Most advanced species in our galaxy evolved in stable environments, June explained. This led to specialized thinking. Very powerful for specific problems, but not flexible. She showed examples. How Veloxians like Taiho were brilliant at calculations but struggled with abstract concepts. How Signosians like Minji had perfect memory but sometimes found it hard to forget old solutions when they no longer worked. Humans evolved on a planet with constant change, June said. Ice ages, warming periods, changing food sources. We had to adapt or die. This gave us something different. She showed a simple test she had created overnight. It was a puzzle that changed its rules as you solved it. When she invited several students to try it, the specialized thinkers got stuck when the rules changed. Now watch this, June said. She handed the controls to Minji, who had practiced with it that morning. Minji moved through the puzzle, adapting quickly when the rules changed. Minji can do this because she worked with me to understand adaptive thinking, June explained. Our different ways of thinking can complement each other. The room was silent. Now, no one was whispering or laughing. I'm not saying human thinking is better, June said. It's just different, and when combined with your specialized thinking, it could help solve problems in new ways. She showed a final display. How combining human adaptability with alien specialized intelligence could lead to breakthroughs in science, medicine, and exploration. My project isn't about humans versus aliens, June concluded. It's about what we can achieve together with our different ways of thinking. When June finished, there was silence. Then Professor Hana, sitting with the judges, began to clap. Slowly, others joined in. June looked at Taiho. He wasn't clapping. His face was dark with anger. The judges leaned together, talking in low voices. They seemed interested, maybe even impressed. For the first time since coming to the academy, June felt truly hopeful. After all presentations were finished, the judges left to make their decision. Students gathered in small groups around the hall, talking about the different projects. Several students approached June, asking questions about her ideas. This had never happened before. As June was explaining her research to a group of interested students, Taiho pushed through the crowd. His silver face was dark with anger. "This is a joke," he shouted. All conversation in the hall stopped. Everyone turned to watch. "The human is a cheat," Taiho pointed at June with three of his arms. "What are you talking about?" Professor Hana stepped forward. "Her project," Taiho said. "It's not what she was working on all month. She changed it at the last minute." "That's because someone destroyed my original project," June said calmly. "Last night," the crowd gasped and whispered. "She has no proof," Taiho said quickly. "She probably just couldn't make her real project work, so she made up this theory instead." June looked at Taiho. She had stayed calm through weeks of bullying, through insults and sabotage. But now, seeing him try to turn her adaptation into a crime, something inside her snapped. "I do have proof," June said. She took out her small Earth phone. "I've been recording evidence for weeks." She connected her phone to the main display. The screen showed pictures of her vandalized door, of her poisoned food, of her original project before it was destroyed. "And I installed a small camera in my workshop," June said, "because I knew someone might try something." The display changed to show clear footage of Taiho and his friends breaking into her workshop, of them destroying her project. The timestamp showed it happened just hours before the tournament. The hall was completely silent now. Everyone stared at Taiho, whose face had turned a pale shade of silver. I didn't," he stammered. "You didn't think a primitive human would be smart enough to set up a security system?" June asked. Professor Dohyun looked shocked. "Taiho, is this true? Did you destroy another student's project?" Before Taiho could answer, he lunged at June. His 6 arms reached for her, his face twisted with rage. "You ruined everything," he shouted. June didn't have time to think. Her body moved on its own, using skills she had learned in self-defense classes on Earth. She stepped to the side, grabbed one of Taiho's arms, and used his own momentum to flip him over. Taiho crashed to the floor, stunned. He had never expected a human to be able to defend herself against his 6 arms and superior strength. June stood over him, not in anger, but with calm confidence. "Another human adaptation," she said. "We don't have natural weapons like claws or extra arms, so we learned to use technique instead of raw strength." Security officers rushed in. They helped Taiho up and held him firmly. "She attacked me," Taiho tried to claim. "We all saw what happened," Professor Hana said. "The human defended herself after you attacked her." Professor Dohyun looked at the security footage still playing on the screen, then at Taiho. "Take him and his accomplices to the disciplinary office," he ordered. "The board will decide their punishment." As Taiho was led away, he looked back at June with hatred in his eyes, but there was something else there too. Fear. Not just of punishment, but of what June represented. A species that could adapt, that could survive, that could turn disadvantage into strength. The judges returned to the hall. They had seen everything that happened. In light of these events, the head judge said, we will need time to reconsider our decision. June nodded. She didn't care about winning anymore. She had already won something more important. Respect. Minji came to stand beside her. Are you okay? She asked. Yes, June said. And for the first time since coming to the academy, it was true. Jiwoo Park stood at the window of Earth Central Station watching the stars. Tomorrow she would leave for her new job. She took a deep breath. She was nervous, but also proud. Officer Park, are you ready for your briefing? A voice called from behind her. Jiwoo turned to see Captain Do-hyun Kim. He was tall for a human with kind eyes that didn't match his serious face. Yes, sir, she said, standing straight. They walked together to a small room with a round table. On the wall was a picture of a large alien ship. It looked like a giant claw. That's the Indomitable Claw, said Captain Kim. It will be your home for the next year. Jiwoo nodded. She knew this was important. Humans had only been part of the space community for 30 years. Many alien races still thought humans were weak. The Dokren Commonwealth has agreed to take one human officer, Captain Kim said. You are the best choice. Your language skills are excellent and you adapt well to new situations. Thank you, sir, Jiwoo said. But I heard the Dokrens don't like humans very much. Captain Kim's face became more serious. That's true, especially the Munhwa. He touched a button and a new picture appeared on the wall. Jiwoo tried not to look surprised. The Munhwa were huge, with 4 arms and hard shells covering their bodies. They looked like walking tanks. The Munhwa are the warrior class of the Dokren Commonwealth, Captain Kim explained. They are born to fight. Their bodies are naturally armored. They are 3 times stronger than the strongest human. And they think we're weak, Jiwoo said. They call us glass creatures, Captain Kim said with a small smile. They think we will break easily. Jiwoo frowned. She wasn't very tall and she didn't look strong. But she had worked hard to get here. Why send me then? They won't respect me. That's exactly why we're sending you, said Captain Kim. You don't look dangerous, but you are smart, quick, and tough in ways they don't understand. He showed her more pictures of the ship and the different aliens she would meet. The Munhwa were the strongest, but there were 5 other races in the Commonwealth. All of them were bigger and physically stronger than humans. The ship is set for their comfort, not ours, Captain Kim warned. The gravity will be 1.3 times Earth normal. The air will be thicker, the temperature will be hotter. Jiwoo nodded. She had trained for this. Your job is to learn about them, share information about Earth when asked, and show them that humans are valuable allies, Captain Kim said. It won't be easy. They may test you. What kind of tests? Jiwoo asked. They might make you carry heavy things. They might forget that you need different food. They might talk about how weak humans are while you're in the room. Captain Kim looked straight at her. Can you handle that? Jiwoo thought for a moment. Then she smiled. My grandmother came to America knowing no English, with no money and no friends. She built a good life anyway. If she could do that, I can do this. Captain Kim smiled back. That's why we picked you. He handed her a small device. This will connect you to Earth if there's an emergency, but try not to use it. The Dokrans respect those who solve their own problems. Jiwoo took the device. Tomorrow she would board a ship to meet the Dokran transport vessel. Soon she would be living among aliens who thought humans were as fragile as glass. I won't let Earth down, she promised. I know, said Captain Kim. Show them what humans can really do.